You're listening to Change Your POV podcast with Eddie Lazary, episode 52.
I was fortunate enough to land a job that had other veterans in a very tight area. So it was easy because I would ask a lot of questions and I would talk about my experience. And I felt once I started opening up, the easier it was for me to deal with my own stuff, to eventually where it got to the point where it didn't bother me as much anymore. Or when it started to bother me, I knew how to control it.
Welcome to Change Your POV podcast, helping you navigate transitions in your life, like entering and exiting college or the military, changing jobs or careers, and providing you with the coaching and mentorship needed to help you advance in your personal or professional life. Sometimes all you need is to change your point of view. Now, here's your host, Eddie Lazary.
Welcome to Change Your POV podcast. I have a special guest with us this evening, Mr. Adam Bird. You may know Adam from, well, he's been all over the place, but he is the founder of Heroes Media Group and also has a podcast, The Decision Hour, which I listen to religiously and love the content and the guests that he brings on. A lot of great content. So if you are looking to fill your podcast aggregator with some good shows, I highly recommend a Decision Hour. You can head on over to Heroes Media Group website, and that's a new website too. You just redid that, right?
Yep, sure did. Yep.
That's good. And there's all kinds of information over there. There's other podcasts that are featured on Heroes Media Group as well. Just a lot of really good content. And before we get down the road of kind of Heroes Media Group and how that came to be, why don't you share with the listeners a little bit more about you and kind of where your background and where you came from?
Well, thanks, Eddie. First, I appreciate you having me on tonight. And a little bit about me. I 6'2", 240. I like long walks in the desert. But seriously, I born and raised in Wisconsin. I I have a house in Arizona. I've been down in Arizona now. On and off for about 20 years. And then I as of last year, started recently kind of going out toward the East Coast more. I've got some business colleagues out in Virginia, so I'm out there quite a bit each year now too. A single parent. I was in the Army National Guard for 9 years, did a deployment to Iraq in 2003, was there for the kind of the initial push, and got out in 2007 to take custody of my son. And once I got out, I had a hard time figuring out what it was I really wanted to do, and linked up with an online school, and they had a military division. So I worked there for several years, and then was part of their big layoff. And then 4 days later, I got headhunted by a marketing firm and gave that a shot. I was the only veteran in the entire company in that marketing firm, and that was just kind of it was a different environment working with being the only veteran in the company. Got out of that after about 8 months. Just wasn't for me. That, and then the company went under. And then I decided to get into radio. I was doing a local radio show here in the Valley, and was one of their they asked me to come on to be one of their guests as a education piece and talk about how to use your GI Bill and whatnot because of my background. And once a month became every other week became every week. And then after about a year and a half of doing it every week, me and a former business partner of mine, we kind of looked at each other like, why don't we kind of do this on our own? And then we saw the internet radio stuff kind of breaking out, and this was kind of going to be the wave of the future. So we started a company, and that lasted about 3 years up until last June of 2015. And we shut that company down, parted ways, went our separate ways, and I created Heroes Media Group and been going full force ever since.
I have an opportunity to speak with a lot of different veterans, and those that kind of finally find their niche on the outside don't find it through a direct path. Many times they kind of hop, skip, jump, turn, flex, pivot, all those things until they finally find something that clicks with them. And this is no different. What were your, well, let's back up. Getting out of the military, I'm sure, being a single father, you were forced to make a lot of, solid decisions because, you didn't have a whole lot of flexibility to be able to kind of go off and take a whole lot of risk, right?
Well,
So talk to us a little bit about that experience, getting out of the military and kind of moving into this new civilian sector.
Eddie, it was really scary, to be honest with you. I literally came off the battlefield, went into a divorce, and became a full-time father. I mean, it was just boom, boom, boom. There was no transition phase for me there at all. So, and the realization of, kind of, I don't want to say fighting your demons, but those of you that have been, in theater or downrange, when you come back, you think you're not a different person, and everybody else is wrong. They just disagree with you. So when I came back, I thought, people were telling me, family members were like, you're kind of walking around with a chip on your shoulder. You're not the same that you were before. And I was like, I'm fine. I don't, uh, my main focus was I had to switch gears. And my son was not quite a year old when I took full custody of him. And now it's like, okay, I went from doing things that were kind of the, as we say in the Army, the hoo-hoo stuff, the cool stuff, um, to crying babies, changing diapers. What the hell do I do now? Where's the field manual to this kid? How do you be a parent? And you just do it. And it was a lot of trial and error, and it was hard. I'd be lying to you if I said it was easy. It was really hard making that transition, and it still is. Even to today, my son's 13 now. Great kid. I'm very blessed. But when I got out of the military and then trying to go get a job in corporate America, I was fortunate enough to land a job that had other veterans in a very tight area. So it was easy because I would ask a lot of questions and I would talk about my experience. And I felt once I started opening up, the easier it was for me to deal with my own stuff, to eventually where it got to the point where it didn't bother me as much anymore. Or when it started to bother me, I knew how to control it.
Yeah. And that's the thing is I talk with a lot of people and they say, you served in combat, you served in Iraq, you've been blown up, you've been shot at. Boy, this civilian life must be cakewalk compared to that. And it isn't. And when I say that it isn't, that trying to find your path in this, civilian world, this environment that's so foreign to us is very much more difficult sometimes than even a firefight. And the reason for that is because at least when you're in a firefight, you've got, in some cases, years of training that you can fall back on,
Right. Right.
We spent hours out in the field. We've spent hours, reacting to, practicing to react to contact. We spend hours, doing land navigation and maneuvering our element. And we spend, hours and days and years, doing all of those things. And when we finally go and deploy and do it for real, I've said this many times on the podcast and I'll say it again. A lot of people ask me, how do you rise to the occasion in combat? And the answer is no one really rises to the occasion. You only drop to your level of training.
Right.
And because of that training, you have the ability to, know what to do. You may not have all the answers, but you know what to do and you know what your next mission is. And now you get out and you're evolving into this other phase in your life. And there's very little guidance, very little direction. Like you said, there's no user manual, there's no SOPs or TTPs or anything that you can refer back to, and you're really left with either trying to figure it out on your own or relying on other people to help you through it.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there. A lot of it, and I look at it like this: is everybody remembers that first time where they went to basic training. They remember their basic training experience. And when you first enter the military, we all know you go to basic training and you train, you learn, right? When you're coming out of the military, it's like going back to basic training for the civilian sector all over again. You have to learn how to adapt. You have to learn, and the thing is, you never really I've been out for about 9 years, and it seems like every day there's always something new. You constantly learning about something different, whether it's something in the house broke and you have no mechanical experience and you got to figure that out, or something, your kid's sick and you're not sure what exactly it is and you can't pinpoint it, and you hate going to the doctor because you got to deal with those people, and whatnot. Whatever the case is, you're constantly retraining. And now that I've been out, I think people, life is stressful as it is. My thing that I've started to do over the last couple months, even when I've realized what I needed to do this more, was really try to enjoy it as much as you can. You're going to have if life was easy. I mean, it's, we all know the suicide rate among veterans is very high. It's sad. We need to fix that. But at the same time, enjoy life. Like you and I, Eddie, I appreciate, I'm sitting here talking to you, and it's an honor for me to be on your show, and thank you again. This is fun. This is fun for me. Before tonight, I was hanging out with my son, talking about his science fair project and all that stuff. That stuff is fun. It's the little things in life, like this and like that you really got to cherish the most.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. Yeah. And that's the thing is, everyone's going to struggle at some point, no matter how much you may prepare or may not prepare when you get out. There are things that you're just going to have to navigate and figure that out. What would be 3 things you would recommend to those that are looking at separation here on the horizon as they prepare to get out of the military?
As you're getting out of the military, getting ready to transition, make sure before you get out, make sure all your medical paperwork, if you have any medical issues, make sure that stuff is in line before you get out. Go get checked. Even if you didn't have anything wrong or you're fine or whatever, go get checked and make sure all that stuff is in your paperwork. So when you get out, you have to go to the VA for whatever reason, that stuff is done. Secondly, if you're coming on up to like a year and you're getting ready to get out and you haven't started looking at a career field or whatnot, start looking at a career field and start getting in contact with companies that you might be interested in working for, and get out there and talk to them. Update your LinkedIn profile. If you don't have one, get on there and create a LinkedIn profile. It's a great networking source. The other thing is education. Constantly educate yourself, whether it's go back and you want to get a 4-year degree if you don't have one already, or get into a trade, whether it's plumbing or an electrician or carpentry of some sort. 80% of the job, there's 80% of the trade jobs that are available right now are not filled. So there's a high demand in the trade fields right now in the U.S. And I know you said 3, but I'm gonna add a 4th on there.
Sure.
If you're looking at becoming an entrepreneur, talk to guys like myself or like Eddie here, that have done this, and look at different options, whether you want to start your own business or you want to buy into a franchise, because there's a lot of franchises out there that have that give veterans a huge discount to get into a franchise, and that's a great way to work for yourself and have something for yourself once you get out.
Absolutely. And you mentioned you ended up working at a company there, not for very long, but you were the only veteran in that company. Now, do you think they headhunted you because of your marketing skills or because of your veteran background?
Honestly, a little bit of both. They wanted a veteran in there because they brought me in because they wanted me to create a military side, or they wanted me to get military. It was a lead generation company, and they basically wanted my contacts, is what it boiled down to. It was, get us on the bases, let us talk to these people, do this, and this, who do we need to talk to? We don't know this is your area of expertise. I started doing that, and quickly, I shouldn't say quickly, but about 3-4 months into it, realized I was getting phone calls from these people who I introduced this company to, and they were like, "Hey, we haven't been paid. We haven't done this. We haven't done that. Things are, And I was like, all right, must be standard, blah, blah, blah." And I started doing some digging and asking around, and they had no intention of paying these people. So it was coming back on me, making me look bad. So I picked up on that, and it was right about when I started picking up on it, when I started asking questions, I was asked not to attend any more of the company meetings, and that's when I realized something was wrong. I had to make a change. So I went in. They got rid of my position. They said, "You're going to fall under this department now," and I wasn't going to have that. So I went in and I just kind of smiled and said, "All right." I went back to my desk, downloaded all of my contacts, erased the computer, and I quit that day.
I've been out of the Army now for 12 years, and I've done a lot of kind of looking around at different companies. I hear so there's a big push for a lot of corporations that promote this, what do you call it, the veteran friendly hiring, or the veteran friendly, employer. There's a lot of veteran programs that a lot of companies have stood up over the course of the last, say, 10, 12 years. Um, and I know firsthand that not every company is legitimately, how do I say this in a nice way without offending any, well, screw it, I'll offend people. There's companies out there that are taking advantage of veterans. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I mean, we're
Uh,
we're a hot market right now, Eddie. I
yeah,
mean, look at it,
yeah,
like what's the thing to do? It's almost like the cool kid in school is like, hey, if this company's not veteran friendly, they're not the cool kid. They can't be part of the cool club, or anything like that. And I think a lot of companies are picking up on the fact that, and it's been in the news. It's no big secret that there's a huge drawdown in our military, and that's a whole nother topic in itself. But with the drawdown in the military, these companies are trying to pick up some of that. Like, hey, we can do this. We can make our company more attractive if we say this, or if we say that we're going to do this, or what have you.
And what I found too is when I talk with a lot of companies and corporations, and they know that there's value in hiring a veteran, but when I ask a simple question like, "What do you find valuable in hiring a veteran?" Sometimes they struggle with coming up with an answer. They know that there's value in hiring a veteran, but they don't really understand what that value is. And a lot of times I get a canned answer like, "Oh, well, veterans are hard workers." And that's about as much as they can come up with. They just know that they want to be on the ticket for being known as a veteran hiring, friendly type company.
Right.
So let me ask you this: is the onus on the company to really understand the value that a veteran brings to their organization, or is it up to the veteran to communicate and to educate the civilian populace on what value they bring to the table?
Man, hey, that's a great question, and I'm gonna answer it like this. I'm gonna say it's both, and here's why I answer it that way. As a company, from a company standpoint, it's important to go out and you want to sell why you want veterans to come in and work for you, and make them understand why. But you're absolutely correct on these canned answers. They're hard workers. Well, no shit. It's
Yeah.
like, you see, that's your answer? Seriously? Next. I mean,
Hmm.
the leadership abilities, the effectiveness to work under pressure. I mean, there's all different types of stuff that you and I and other veterans know. Now, from the veteran side of it, when you're going in, you're interviewing for a job, you're selling yourself. If you sell yourself right, you're gonna tell that company why they need you. It's not like, hey, I'm here because appreciate the opportunity. Let me interview this. And I've gone into some interviews. My last corporate job I went in as, this is why you guys need me. I was like, and I did some research prior to going in. I looked up the company numbers, their stock numbers. I looked up what their management tiers were like and whatnot. And I walked in. I said, "This is what I can do for you."
Mm.
You try to turn it around where, yeah, technically you're going in to interview for a position, but take that mindset. No, you're interviewing that company to see if that company is the right fit for you.
Right.
And I think if you get yourself in that mindset, uh, you, personally, I think you have a better shot at getting it if that's the position that you really want, or the company that you really want to work for.
Absolutely. So I've ran several polls on my Facebook page, the Change Your POV um, group page. I got the Change Your POV squad. I've ran some polls there. I've talked with obviously a lot of veterans on the podcast, and even more veterans outside of the podcast. And I recently gave a course at a local university here with some student veterans. And I every time I have an opportunity to ask a veteran this, I ask this one question, and that is, what's the one thing that you struggle with the most as a veteran coming out into the civilian world? And the number one answer, I've gotten many different answers, but all in all, the common denominator, the most common response I get to that question is one's ability to convert military experience and education into something that civilian or the corporate world can understand. Have you experienced that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I experienced it with myself a little bit, but then I do a lot of, I go around and I do a lot of career fairs. I get asked to, set up at some career fairs and do interviews and stuff like that. And never ceases to amaze me. You always have somebody at these career fairs, whether it's here locally in the Arizona area, Southern California, or even out in Virginia, or Texas. Every one that I've been to, you always have somebody in there that's always talking about, here's how you have to translate what your job was in the military so that the corporate America can understand what it is you did.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to say, oh, I was a, 88 Mike but I was a gunner and I blew stuff up and blah blah blah. Well, you're applying for a management position. What does that do for you?
Right.
How about saying, oh, I got leadership skills, I was in charge, I was a squad leader of this and I was in charge, or I was a manager. Instead of say squad leader, say I was a manager of of 4 people and my responsibilities were X, Y, and Z. You just kind of break it down, and it takes practice. But fortunately for a lot of these young kids and our brothers and sisters that are getting ready to make that transition out of the military, there's a lot of help out there now. You just got to ask for it, and you got to know where to look.
Did they have the TAPS classes when you were transitioning out?
No, they didn't.
Yeah, me neither. So I don't really know. I've heard of it and I've heard people talk about it, but but I didn't go through it. All I know is I get mixed reviews, but most people the common thing is it was a check the box, kind of like how we used to do mandatory fun day, right?
Yep.
It was a check the box thing in order to clear off their checklist to separate, just like CIF or anything else. And then that's it. Very little useful information. Again, this is a generalized comments that I get. There have been a few people that really got some value out of it. I think a lot of it had to do with whoever was instructing that class at that particular time.
Right.
But all in all, not a whole lot of good impressions I've gotten with regard to the TAPS class, as far as preparing one to really separate from the military.
Yeah, I out of all the things I've heard about TAP, I've not gotten a positive review on it at all. And that's very unfortunate. Now I do hear that things are getting better. They're doing more, which is great. But I think with the drawdown rate being is what it is, and as fast as people are getting out and they're pushing people out, this country's already got we're already short-handed jobs. And we're already pushing them. We're forcing people out of the military. It's how's that going to get better?
Yeah, and I guess the whole moral of the story, that the reason I brought that up, folks, if you're in the military and you're fixing to separate here soon, the responsibility for your preparedness is on you. Don't rely on a TAPS class or any other. Don't get me wrong. I would definitely go to those and take as much advantage of them as possible. It's free. It's I'm sure there'll be some useful information on it, but don't rely on an 8-hour class to prepare you for everything you're going to need to know when you get out.
Right.
You really need to start looking at those things on your own. Start asking some questions. You really need to be your own best advocate for separation.
Yeah, and I want to go back to the LinkedIn thing, because for me, and I'm just might be a little biased here, because LinkedIn's worked very, very well for me with networking and contacting with people, and even help other people find jobs. I strongly encourage it. And there's one for the military too now. I think it's called Rally Point. Is another one. And then get out there. Social media is a huge networking opportunity for you as well. Reach out to other military organizations and these military groups that are online and start asking questions. Hey, I'm getting ready to ETS and I'm moving to Florida, Alaska, whatever. What jobs are available in this area here? Can anybody in this area that can help me out or whatnot? Or what do you guys suggest? So ask.
So we're going to shift it a little bit, and we're going to talk about Heroes Media Group. So you kind of talked at the top of the show about how you kind of fell into that. What is the mission today of Heroes Media Group?
Heroes Media Group is we're basically a platform for the heroes within the community. And what I mean by that is we count heroes as military veterans, law enforcement, firefighters, first responders, teachers, and clergy. So kind of heroes within the community. And we're getting to a point, or the goal is we want more writers, more radio shows. It's an education piece, a place where people can come in, um, listen to different shows. We have a firearm show, which is very educational, and it does very well. I have my show, The Decision Hour, which I talk to other, uh, you know, people that have made that decision, whether it's entrepreneur, they want to get into upper management, or whatever the case is. But a lot of good shows. We're building that. I think by the end of May we'll have 15 shows on our network. And one of the things that we're going to start doing, hopefully by the end of the summer, is we want to start recognizing some of the heroes in the community. We're going to send out a blast that says, "Hey, send us, the teacher of the week, or the teacher of the month, or the firefighter of the month or the week, or whatnot." And you can submit that and put that in, and we'll send that person, something. It might be a small gift card, or some sort. We're still working out the details on that. So we are the working piece of an overall arching umbrella called the Heroes Alliance Network, which is a 501c3 that was just approved. So we're going to be doing a lot of stuff, and it ties in, within the Heroes community, and the Heroes Alliance part of it will be, doing scholarships for the hero families and stuff like that. So it's a pretty exciting time right now for us.
That's cool. Is that primarily centric to the Arizona area, or is it all
No,
over?
we're nationwide, and eventually it'll branch off, overseas as well. We have quite a few followers in Germany, in the UK, and up in Canada, but mostly our stuff right now, at least for the next probably 2 to 3 years, will be more geared here towards the United States. And like I said, we do events all over the country. We do a lot of sporting events. We have a big sports department. We were at opening day for the Arizona Diamondbacks. At that same day, we had people in Atlanta covering the opening day for the Atlanta Braves, and then that night we were in Houston for the final game of the NCAA tournament. We had 4 people down there covering the final game against Villanova in North Carolina. We do NASCAR. We got a working relationship with NASCAR, the PGA. Basically, some of the NFL teams we're starting to work with now. Major League Baseball is huge. We do a lot of college sports as well. So, and we're all over the country covering stuff. So,
Is that primarily like announcing, or just covering from a journalist or reporter?
yep,
Or
from a reporter standpoint, yep.
okay, all right, cool. And they report back to the shows that are featured on Heroes Media Group.
We have a sports show called the S3. Who is our sports director, Jeff Demers, and his co-host is former Green Bay Packer Andre Thurman. They do a show right now it's once a week. They're actually going to be upping it to about 3 times a week. But we also have a couple other people that are coming in. We got a couple other sports shows that are interested in joining our network as well. They'll push some stuff out to the show, but a lot of that stuff we're creating another site just for the sports section of the Heroes Media department, called HMG Sports. And you can actually find HMG Sports on Facebook. It's still very new. We're building that, but we have, like I said, we've been fortunate enough to get in. We've been to the Final Four the last 3 years. We've been to the Super Bowl the last 2 years. Hopefully, we'll get Major League Baseball, the All-Star break this year. And one of the things that we'd like to do there is we look for veterans that want to go. Maybe they have a team their favorite team that they want to cover. Or if we get the press passes for them and the credentials, there's a certain criteria that they have to meet. But we look for veterans or heroes that want to cover those games, and we get them into those games.
That's awesome. Sounds like a pretty busy seasons and a lot of traveling. How do you manage that as a single father?
Hopes and dreams, my friend. It's I'm fortunate now to where I don't have to do all that traveling. I get, I find people that are in those areas, work with them, and we do it that way. I do travel quite a bit. It's usually in the latter part of the year. I do several expos. I'm out at Quantico for the modern day Marine. I do AUSA, which is the Army version of that, just, much larger version. We got stuff with some of the minor league teams out there. And then last year we were at the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut for Veterans Day and did a huge event out there that we're going to be, sounds like we're going to be hosting that this year.
Nice. You got to let me know. That's pretty close to where I'm at.
Perfect. Yeah, you'll definitely have to come up. That'd be great. Have you come down? And so right now, that's kind of it. I'm looking to go to Frog Fest in Texas next month. But a lot of these events and stuff, it's we got people around the country that believe in the mission and what we're trying to accomplish, and they want to be a part of it. And I consider myself very, very lucky and very blessed because if it wasn't for people that I'm a big dreamer. I have very big dreams, and how I see this to be in the next 10 years, and people like that, and they want to be a part of it, and yeah, I mean, it's all good things.
That's nice. Where do you see Heroes Media Group headed in the future?
I'd like us to be one of the largest, if not, I'd like us to be as large as like CNN or Fox.
Nice.
Doing radio, but also doing TV, all on the internet. My goal in the next 3 years is I want to create 1,000 jobs, whether it's within my organization or one of the other projects that I have my hands in right now. So the goal is to create 1,000 jobs for the heroes.
That's awesome.
For veterans, maybe you got a police officer that retired and doesn't want to retire, so wants to go back to work, do something completely different. I want to be, and I say me, and I'm not saying me myself, but it's me, Heroes Media Group, and then the network. People that I work with and network with. You, Eddie, as an example.
Right.
Maybe, hey, I can reach out to you, Eddie. I got a guy here. Boom, boom, boom. What do you got? And we get that person a job. Then, that spreads the wealth out, and then 10, 15 years when the economy starts going back to an upswing and we're creating all these jobs and people want to know, how did this happen? Look at all these jobs that have been created over the last 15, 20 years. They're going to look at the core of it, and they're going to see our group, our network, and everybody that's worked with us and partnered with us. They're going to see us there kind of near the core, if not being the core of that, and help, we help create that.
That's awesome. I mean, you could sit on your hands and wait for the federal government to do the right thing and create all these jobs. But you know what? I think it's time that, people kind of get up off their couch and get out there to start doing for themselves. I mean, it's going to get done a lot faster and probably more proficiently done that way than waiting for the government to do it for you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think now is the time, especially for the veterans, is this country needs more entrepreneurs right now. And I think the only way, and not to get into politics or anything like that, but it's one of those things where it's time for us to kind of take a stand and kind of take back what's ours, and that's our country, and let's bring everything back here stateside, create jobs. Let's stop the homelessness. Let's get people in houses. Let's save our veterans. Let's help our veterans. Let's stop this veteran homelessness. Let's stop homelessness in America. Period. Let's create jobs for people. Nobody's got an excuse anymore because there's plenty of jobs out there now. Let's create an overabundance of jobs where we're shorthanded people because there's we have all these jobs available and there's not enough people for them.
Nice. Yeah, totally agree. How do you define success?
Oh man, I knew that question was coming, and it's my definition of success is whether or not you're happy. Some people define the success as how much money you make. Some people define the success as you have the biggest house in your block or in your neighborhood or whatever the case is. Me personally, I think success is doing something that you love and loving what you do, helping others get what they want out of life and being able to do that. I think that's success. I think that's successful. Happiness, being happy. That's if you're happy, then you're successful.
Amen. And money will not buy you happiness. That's for sure.
Listen, money will buy you a lot of cool stuff, and it's great when the bills come around. But it's not, like you said. Money will not buy you happiness at all. Doesn't matter how much of it you have.
That's right. Amen. Some of the saddest people in this world are also some of the richest. It's just that's the way it is.
Yep, absolutely.
So I am sure with all of the success that you have had along your journey, that you have not arrived without some trials and tribulations. So share with us one or two failures or challenges that you've experienced along the way, and what did you learn from
You
them?
know, I'd say the biggest challenge is for me is being your own worst enemy, and what I mean by that is worrying too much about what others may think of you. That's kind of what I would say. Any advice that I can give anybody is no matter what life throws at you, always look at the positive things and build off of that. And don't be too quick to get hard on yourself because you're going to fail. Welcome it. I hope that I fail because I learned from it and I know that I'll be able to do so. Because when I fail, I know I'm that much closer to success. And if you take that mindset, if you fail and you're just like, damn it, I failed, I'm going to give up. And believe me, folks, believe me when I tell you this, there's probably not, I can't believe I'm going to admit this, but I'm going to. There's not a week that goes by where I'm ready, like, man, F this, I have thrown the towel, forget it. You know, but I'm still here. And there's a reason why I'm here. Go with your instinct. Go with what I like to say. Go with your gut. If something doesn't feel right in your gut, you come up with a situation, whether it's a business deal or you're looking at a job, money's really good, but I don't know, something just doesn't seem right. Go with your instinct. Trust your instinct on it. That's the advice. That's the advice and stuff I'd give.
That's awesome. So what I'm hearing you say is, learn how to get out of your own way, right?
Yep.
And the people that never fail are the same people that never try.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if I could add just one more thing to that.
Sure.
I'm not a big book reader. I'm more of a, books on CD. And if you listen to an entire book on CD, that counts that you read the book, ladies and gentlemen. So don't judge. I, one of the books that's kind of changed. You hear about Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. He wrote another book called Outwitting the Devil. Not a lot of people have heard of that book. It's one that I strongly recommend. It's a very interesting book, and it really, at least for me personally, it put a lot of things in my life into perspective, and I think it's helped me grow as a person to who I am today.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely include that in the show notes. That's cool. All right, so give me one or two things that you've been able to pull forward from your military career into either your career or your daily activities, your daily life. What's something that you just kind of that pack that you got on your back that's still got camouflage on it, that it's proverbial pack, by the way, that you kind of carry forward with you and you just kind of make part of your life these days?
Part of it's self-confidence, being able to kind of giving yourself confidence, like, you're invisible, even though we know that we're not. But having more confidence, like you can take on more things now. Like, shit, that's nothing. I've been through this. I've done that. So whatever you're throwing at me, that's just really nothing to me. The other thing would be learning to deal with people and leadership skills.
And so the other side of that coin is, what's one thing that you've carried forward from your military time that's impeded your ability to succeed in the civilian sector?
Oh, I can be blunt, or a little too direct sometimes, and I think some of that came with some of my military career. At least that's what I'm going to blame it on.
That works. Yeah.
I would say that, and from a physical standpoint, injuries that you occur, or that occur, excuse me, not being able to sit for long periods of time, or you just different. I'm not really sure how to explain that, to be honest with you. It's
Mm-hmm.
you kind of had to been there and gone through the stuff to really understand, or maybe you're somebody that's dealing with the VA and you know exactly what I'm talking about. So
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, that's really it.
That's cool, man. All right, wrapping up here, I ask all of my guests a closing question, and it's I get a different answer every time, which is kind of the point. So, as you know, this podcast is called Change Your POV or Point of View. Give us an instance or a time when you thought something one way, but something happened, an occurrence happened, an event happened in your life that forced you to think about that thing completely different. What was it, and what did you learn from that experience?
Um, Fatherhood
Mm,
and getting out of the military. I remember thinking, I can't be a father. I need to continue on this path of being in the military. My plan was to retire. I don't have time to be a dad. And that was my first initial reaction, even though deep down I didn't feel that way. I love being a father, but I needed to, if I didn't have the military, I had nothing, which means I couldn't give my son anything. And it wasn't, I looked at that and I realized military is just a career. There's other jobs. There's other jobs out there. And, uh, a lot of people don't get the opportunity to be a parent. And for some reason, God gave me that blessing. Um, and I wasn't going to ruin it. So I quickly changed my mind and realized that, if the one thing, if I do anything in life right, this was the one thing I had to get right, and that was to be a dad. And man, I I put everything I do in my life for the last 13 years has been for my kid, and I give all the credit to my kid. All
mm,
my son's name's Christopher, and I give all the credit kind of goes to him. I've been fortunate to make a lot of friends and people such as yourself, Eddie, along the way. But I'm here today being able to do this interview because of my son. Because if it wasn't for him, I don't know where I would be right now. I
mm-hmm.
really don't.
And that's an important takeaway, I think, folks. And that is, no matter how long you serve in the military, whether it's, 4 years, 6 years, 10, 20, 30 years, there will come a point in everyone's life where you will take off that uniform for the last time. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. But if you're a father or a mother, you will always be a father or you will always be a mother. So you can't hang that up. You can't take off the cloak of fatherhood and lay it down and say, I'm done. Um, and there are people that do that, but you know what? There's no integrity in that. So I think that message is loud and clear, Adam. I think it's an important one. Sometimes we attach our value and our worth to our service and our flag and our uniform, but really, when it comes down to the end of at the end of the day, where the rubber meets the road, our value and worth in this world is our legacy that we pass down to our children.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, man, hey, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate your take on things. I really love what you're doing with Heroes Media Group and the Decision Hour podcast. Again, if you folks listening, check that out. Head on over to iTunes or any one of the podcast aggregators. Download that, subscribe, rate, and review. Excellent material coming out of that. I love it. Where can people find contacts? Give me your contact links and anywhere you want folks to go.
Sure. You can always check us out at heroesmediagroup.com. There's a contacts link there. You can reach me at Adam at heroesmediagrp.com, or real simple. Go to info@heroesmediagroup.com as well. I'm always open. You follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all Heroes Media GRP. Yeah, Eddie, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on your show. I had a blast, and thanks again. And I appreciate everything that you do.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. We are all, I learned this from the folks over at Cigars and Sea Stories the first time I had a chance to talk with them. They said, you know what? A lot of people look at business and other people within the same space as competition, but us veterans, we don't see our each other as competition. We see each other as adjacent units, right?
Absolutely, yep.
And that's what it's about. And at the end of the day, the rising tide raises all ships, and that's really what this is all about. And we all have a mission, and it's an honorable one. And it's folks like you, the listeners, that listen to our message and feel motivated to reach out. And I've had several. I'm sure you've been in the same boat as well, Adam. But I've had people call me up in the middle of the night and say, I just got done listening to one of your episodes, and I really felt like I needed to reach out, and I'm going through some rough times. And that's what it's about, man. That's it's 11:30 at night on the East Coast right now. And I've got to work in the morning, but you know what? This is important to me. This message, it's important to me. I know it's important to you. And it's important to those out there that just haven't quite found their own pace, and they haven't quite kind of figured things out yet for themselves. And they just need a little bit of a helping hand. They need a point in the right direction, because when it comes right down to it, if you don't know where you're going, any path will take you there. Right. So it's important to kind of find direction. Sometimes you need somebody's guidance to help you with that course correction. But thank you, Adam. I appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show. You can find all the show notes for everything we talked about this episode over at changeyourpov.com/episode 52. Never miss an episode. Hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice. We have a lot more great content headed your way. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can email me at eddie@changeyourpov.com. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to Change Your POV podcast with Eddie Lazary. Check out more content by going to changeyourpov.com. And remember, your ability and willingness to change your point of view will open doors of opportunity.